Today I'm going to tell an important story, and I think this is going to resonate with families or with individuals who suffer from alcohol use disorder. And it's really the realization how society really caters to the alcoholic without really thinking about it. And it's become so ingrained into our society and normalized, drinking has become so normalized that no one, I don't know if not caring is the right word, but it doesn't matter that much, and it's not something that's a concern to other people. They don't recognize what it is as a disease. So the last time my wife and I went on vacation, this would have been the summer of 2019. We went to upstate New York. I'm glad we went because the last year that I spent with my dad. Last time I saw my dad, he died like 6 months later. But I had to take my wife, and if you've been in this position as a family member, you're out of options. I couldn't leave her at home. That would be disastrous. I would come home to somebody who probably tore the house apart and would have drinking themselves into an early grave. My son didn't come with us because he had really at this point had enough of his mother and he needed a break, and I was fine with that. I had to take her because I had to go see my family. I knew my dad had health issues, so I had to take my wife, and it was not a happy experience from the beginning. And very similar to the experience from 4 years earlier when my mother had passed away, I had to take my wife, and this is the first time I took her. And the reason why I keep going over that is because as family members, you have no choice. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So she was promised that she would be good, and obviously she didn't have that ability. As soon as we went to the lake house, there's a family has a house on the water and a night of lake in upstate New York, and there's always some kind of party there, get together, because I was there, my siblings were there, and and unfortunately there was wine and beer, and my wife obviously drank. She ended up drinking a couple bottles of wine, and I believe she really ended up passing out on a chaise lounge, really right in the middle of the party, and which was fine because she was quiet and left everybody alone. But it was really sad. I mean, she's sitting there snoring in the middle of a party, and with my family, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It was embarrassing for her. I think the mosquitoes got her. Everybody was really making remarks about, oh, they felt bad for her because of all the mosquito bites that she got, and we tried to wake her up and we put blanket over her. But I mean, this is just one incident. You can't isolate that, but it's one example of just the insanity that family has to go through. And in my opinion, we just shouldn't have had any alcohol at all. That would have been really good. But nobody, even close family members, and there's cousins and stuff, no one's going to cater just because of my wife, because there's 30 or 40 people there. Understandable, but these are things that families have to go through. Again, I have a complete coaching program. It's really designed to help both the alcoholic and the family. Click on the link above, schedule a breakthrough call. It takes about 45 minutes. We're going to do a deep dive into what's going on with you and your loved one. The call is free, the course is not, but I'm really looking for people who want to change their life and the life of their family. I've helped thousands of people. Honestly, what else are you going to do? You need one-on-one counseling. I wish I had somebody like myself to talk to back when my wife was in the position that she was in, and just have the education and understanding of what's going on with your loved one. And very much like 4 years previous, I forgot it was the 4th of July because there were some fireworks, and I couldn't enjoy the fireworks because they were right across from my dad's house and his new wife's house, and my wife was just so completely inebriated. We couldn't figure out how. She was knocking furniture over. She fell down and knocked a couch up against the wall and put a big divot in the wall of the house. I mean, we're staying at my dad's house, and she's like falling down drunk. So I had to get her upstairs while the fireworks were going off across the street. Couldn't see them, and I just had to get her into a bed. And I realized at that point, similar to 4 years previous, it was too embarrassing to have her in the house, and we had to take a side trip, which we were going to anyways. But I think we were kind of not asked directly, but I think it would have been frowned upon if we had stayed any longer. And it's just a horrible position for to put yourself in and to put family in because of this disease. And really the first thing we did is we went to Lake George, which is a really a resort area in upstate, up in the Adirondacks. It's a beautiful place. They have boat tours, and I've made videos on that particular event. This one's a little bit different because as soon as we got into town, we were hungry. So we went to this, we found this one particular place. It was called Adirondack Brewery. Thinking back, I'm not sure why I went there, but I mean, they looked like a lunch place, and there really wasn't anything open. It was kind of early. It was like 11 o'clock. That's what I remember. Drove up and back and down the street, and that was the only place open. I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to a place that's called Adirondack Brewery, but okay, I'm hungry. Let's go get something. So we sat down, and before we got in, I actually said, Amanda, we can't drink. We're not drinking today. Okay, you got to give me a break here. Okay, we basically been kicked out of the house. You got to stop drinking. I mean, silence from her side. Okay, well, if you drink, I'm just going to walk out. I'm telling you, I've had enough. I just cannot do this anymore. It's not a vacation, okay, when you're just stressed out all the time and you really just become a manager. We sat down for lunch. First thing the waitress said, "Oh, we have this new bottle. You can get a half gallon of beer of Adirondack Brewery, and and we have it at half up for $10. You can keep the bottle and keep the beer." And Amanda just went, "Oh wow, that's so cool. Then we can have a souvenir too." And I just went. I was just seething. I was just like, "Did you forget what we just talked about in the car 5 minutes ago?" "Yeah, but this is, come on, we're on vacation. We're on vacation." You hear that over and over again. And it's funny, I can remember just sitting there, and it's funny, the old emotions come back up, and they shouldn't, but it's important to relay this. And I just had to make a decision. Am I going to get up and walk out? I'm hungry. There's no place else to eat. I just want to eat something. I don't want to get into this huge argument. And these are the decisions that families are faced with. So I decided to sit there, and she ordered this half gallon of beer and proceeded to drink the whole thing in front of me. And she go, "Oh, aren't you going to have some?" I go, "Amanda, get the beer away from me. I'm not drinking with you." "But it's vacation. It's vacation." And I'm like, it's not a vacation for me. If I have to sit here and manage you drink, it's not a vacation. For who? Watch you sit here and get drunk? This is not a vacation. So she had that bottle. And then she had it filled again. So she drank a gallon of beer for lunch. And she was fairly inebriated. And when we got back to the car, I realized I needed a break. So I said, why don't we go back? Why don't we get the hotel? And we got a hotel. And I actually bought her a bottle of wine. And a lot of people won't understand this. You have to make yourself a priority. It gets to the point where you have to make yourself a priority as the sober person. And nothing you do is going to change the situation. So I said, why don't we go back to the room? Here's a bottle of wine. I want to go into town, and I don't want to be dragged around. And I wasn't being mean. I was just saying, let's just do this. And she was fine with it. Okay, let's go back to wine. I could watch television and drink my bottle of wine. Okay, sounds like a plan. And I can remember that evening, I actually walked into town by myself. I remember I got some ice cream, and I had a good old time. I went to the stores and the shops, and there was a play going on in the middle of town. They have like this big play, and it was comedians. It was pretty funny. I had a blast just being by myself and away from all the drama and toxicity. And I tell this story because none of it has anything to do with beating up the alcoholic. It's what you go through as a family member. This is really what this video is about. It's not about beating up the alcoholic. There's nothing you can do with that person. There really isn't. When it gets to that point, we don't need to get into why she was that way, and there's plenty of videos on that. This is about when you've kind of resigned yourself to the fact that it's not going to change. My wife had been to 6 rehabs at this point. I wasn't expecting it to change, but I realized at that point that I needed to make a change in my life, and that I wasn't going to continue with this in my life any longer. And that it really came to that. The point of this video is really how society deals with us. That waiter, she didn't care. And I remember I got up and talked to her. I go, look, my wife's an alcoholic. Could you please not bring a bottle of beer over to her? Well, it's our job. We have to. Well, you can't beat up the waiter either, but nothing caters to the family. There is nothing in this world that caters to the family who is struggling with the alcoholic in their family. There's nobody on your side. And it's a very lonely place. There is no one on your side to help you with your family member who has a mental health disease. And really, I make this kind of video because I know it resonates and it's so relatable for families who have an alcoholic in the family. I mean, make no mistake, this scenario could be repeated 1,000 times across the United States, across the world. It's just dealing with someone who's suffering from alcohol use disorder, and it got worse as we went on. I mean, the next day she was so hungover, so you had to get her another bottle of wine just so she could get in the car, so she wasn't having the shakes. And you're dealing with someone who has to have constant alcohol just so they can remain normal while you're trying to have a vacation of some sort. I've made other videos. We took the tour around the lake, which was like an hour-and-a-half tour the next day. I mean, she wasn't really on the tour. She went downstairs as soon as the tour started, as soon as we pulled away from the dock, and went to the bar downstairs. She disappeared. I never saw her again for the tour, an hour and a half. So she was drinking at a bar on the boat, never really even looked at the lake or the beauty of the area. All her concern was the alcohol. And it's just, and I think after this trip, well, I know after this trip, I realized it was time to find an exit strategy. And you really have to get to that point. You have to make yourself a priority once again. And you got to realize everything has been done to help this person. However they got there, that's another video, but they're there. And how it's affecting you. And you can't go through life being angry and frustrated and filled with animosity for a person who has really a mental disability. You don't want to go down with the ship. And sometimes separating from that person, or putting that person in a safe place, or finding a safe place for that person, like maybe a long-term care facility of some sort, sober living facility. If you have the means, do it, or divorce yourself from the situation. But make yourself a priority. If it's killing you, make yourself a priority. And again, we were in upstate New York for the better part of 2 weeks, and really the worst incident happened when we landed in San Diego, back in California. And I've told this story, and I think it's got more views than any video I've made on TikTok or YouTube. And it was when we got off the plane and we were headed out, when you exit the airport, and I had walked down the stairs, and I looked back, and she said, "Oh, I need to get something. I need to buy something for her girlfriend who was picking us up." And when you walk down the stairs, you can't get back in. I mean, you're leaving the protected area. And she circled back, and I just said, "Okay," not even thinking, and I walked outside and I walked down the stairs. And I went, "Oh no, what did I just do?" She circled back, and my friend and her had to wait in front of the airport for about 2 hours. A lot of people say, "Why don't you just leave her?" That's another story. But she went to a bar and just sat there and drank while we were outside waiting for her to finally end this atrocity of a vacation. And it was the final capstone. And it was so self-centered and so selfish and so outrageous. And I've made videos on this. I can remember just screaming into a phone that she wasn't listening to anyways. And looking at her friend, just going, I can't do this anymore. This has been 2 weeks of hell, and we can't even get home, to get into the car to go home, because she's so selfish that she has to go to a bar and drink herself into oblivion, because she knows this is the last time she's going to be able to do this. If you've experienced this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a horrible, horrible disease. And I hope you're able to catch it. If you're watching this and you're an alcoholic, I hope you're able to catch it and realize and have the awareness of what you're doing, not only to yourself, but to your family, your parents, your spouse, and your children, your friends even, and the effect that you're having on not just you, but everybody in your life. And really, that this story and so many other stories are in the memoir. It's called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. Click on the link in the link tree on this page. You can go to my website. It's also available on the international link. It's available anywhere in the world. You can get it on Amazon as well. Ebook is also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. And again, thanks for listening. And really, to conclude this video, just in this particular case at the airport, I probably could have fought my way back into the airport and found her. But we were outside. We're just simply waiting by the car. And I did not want to go back in. There was a piece of me that was just apathetic. I just wanted her to show up. And you get to the point where the apathy does take over. You just like, why is this my problem every day? And it's not. It shouldn't be. Don't make it your problem. I hope these stories help you and your family. To make a long story short, unfortunately, Amanda did pass away 5 months after this. She wasn't able to recover. She never really recovered the last few years of her life, and it did escalate. She was a very nice person. She was one of the kindest people I've ever known, which makes it that much sadder. She did not have a mean bone in her body, and I don't think she innately was selfish. The disease, really takes over that part of your personality, and it does create a very self-centered, very narcissistic type of human being, whether they were before the alcohol took over their life or not. And it's brutal on families. It's just brutal. It's a sad story, but I tell it so that it can save other people's lives. And I really, really hope that's helped.